Where's Ramona Priest? Tennessee governor offers $10,000 reward in 2001 missing person case. Ramona's Charlie Project page. Strangely, her Charlie Project page says, Priest was last seen as she was being released from the city jail in the vicinity of the 100 block of Security Circle in McMinnville, Tennessee on February 6, 2001. She has never been heard from again. She left behind all her personal belongings, as well as her infant child. There are reports that she was pregnant at the time of her disappearance, but this is untrue. Whereas the article offering the reward below says, Zavagianni's Priest has a daughter and mother, who deserve and need closure. Priest's last whereabouts was outside of a local establishment known as the Underground. Exchange student from Taiwan found dead in Auburn, Alabama. On August 19, a Taiwanese exchange graduate student by the name of Chi Kai-lai was reported missing by the Auburn University Taiwanese Student Association after he had not reported to any classes a week after the fall semester began. It was soon determined that the Lai was last seen on CCTV leaving a restaurant in downtown Auburn, within walking distance of his home. All his luggage remained at his apartment and no activity was discovered on his phone. No leads were provided and not many people really seemed to discuss it much. In October everyone became focused on the disappearance and murder of Anaya Blanchard, and the case of Lai's disappearance was soon forgotten. On November 15, his body was discovered in a shed near the rural outskirts of Auburn. This is roughly 3 to 4 miles away from where he lived and in a part of Auburn that no one would have been walking around even if they lived in Auburn. It would have probably taken him roughly an hour to arrive at this shed from his apartment if he walked. A quote from the coroner's report. The report also stated that there was no indication of any trauma and foul play is not suspected. Lai's cause of death is listed as undetermined and the manner of death is listed as undetermined, the office added. No one knows why Lai was in the shed, which was nowhere near the Auburn University campus. The case is still ongoing. West Ella, East Yorkshire, England. Who accompanied young Russell Bowling to the former Royal Air Force bunker on the cliffs of Bimpton on the day of his disappearance, March 2, 2010. One of the strangest elements of this story is the history of the bunker, which was used by a cult in the 1970s and now houses erotic and satanic artwork. Bowling's father says his son was interested in this history, and had information, as well as pictures of the artwork, on a USB stick. That USB was never found during searches. Russell's brother Andrew believes the 18-year-old went to visit the RAF Bimpton bunker, having accessed websites relating to it on the morning he vanished. He said, I personally think Russell had no interest in the cliffs. He wanted to look at the bunker and I think that's where the tragedy happened. The fact he looked it up online that morning and then ended up there a few hours later suggests that's what happened. I think he went there with someone else. He may have suffered an asthma attack as there is supposed to be asbestos in there, but we don't know and no one has come forward. Bowling's family insists that a third party must have been involved in his disappearance. They point to Bowling's debit card not being used and his small amount of cash being indicative of someone else being with Bowling when he drove to Bimpton because, after recreating the journeys he undertook, they ran out of fuel at Brandsburton, which is 20 miles short of the final destination. But we are committed in our belief and in our understanding of Russell, that there was someone else involved. We don't believe he just fell from the cliffs. Mr. Bowling is urging the person they feel was with Russell at the time to come forward. What really bothers us is that in the 9 years since Russell disappeared, that person has not felt able to come out and say what happened, he said. That makes us deeply suspicious of what happened. Humberside police say Russell could have driven to Bimpton Cliffs without refueling, so officers did not collect any CCTV footage at garages along the way. But the family believe Russell's car must have been refueled between him leaving home and driving to Bimpton Cliffs. The family also believe Russell had recently been seeing a secret friend. Mr. Bowling said, we think Russell had a secret friend, probably from Bishop Burton College. This is someone he met regularly but we know nothing about them. Russell disappeared for 5 hours on the Saturday before, but we don't know where he went and that was very unusual. Why Russell kept this person a secret we can only speculate on. We believe it was this person who was with Russell on the day he went missing. We want this person to tell us how Russell's death came about. Did Russell suffer? Was he in pain or was he terrified? Other facts. His family said they believed he might have been killed by someone who found out he was getting £300,000 from his father for a business. Roger revealed that he had bought Russell and brothers Nigel, 23, and Andrew, 22, a 3-bedroom semi-detached home each in nearby North Ferriby, which they would receive when Russell turned 18. We think that day he has gone to meet somebody he knows and that someone has betrayed his trust. It may have been an abduction attempt to get a ransom that has gone wrong.
वो कुछ नहीं कह रही थी, बस उसकी आंखों से आंसू निकले जा रहे थे। मैंने उसको प्यार से समझाते हुए चुप कराया। उसने रोते हुए कहा, मुझे बहुत दर्द हो रहा है, अब और नहीं, प्लीज आप अपना लंड बाहर निकाल लो, मुझे बहुत दर्द हो रहा है, अंदर बहुत जलन हो रही है, प्लीज प्लीज निकाल लो, बाहर निकाल दो।
What happened to Buster Crabbe? Lieutenant Commander Lionel Kenneth Philip Crabbe, OBE, GM, 28th of January 1909, presumed dead 19th of April 1956, more commonly known as Buster Crabbe, was a British naval frogman who fought during the Second World War. Born to Hugh and Beatrice Crabbe of Streatham, southwest London, Crabbe joined the Royal Navy and trained as a diver in the year 1941. At first, he worked in mine and bomb disposal in Gibraltar, and then relocated to Italy. For his courageous service, he subsequently received the OBE and the George Cross. Crabbe first left the Navy in 1947, planning on becoming a civilian diver, but only 4 years would pass before he re-enlisted, finally retiring in 1955. Not long after his demobilization, he signed up to MI6, the foreign intelligence branch of the British Secret Service. In April the following year, the Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev and his premier, Nikolai Bulganian, traveled to Britain for diplomatic purposes. Their cruiser was the Orjonikidze, a ship gifted with a radical new propeller design. The vessel docked at Portsmouth, on the south coast of England, and the British naval authorities, opportunists they are, were very enthusiastic to learn more about its possibly revolutionary design. It would be Crabbe who was assigned to surreptitiously scrutinize the cruiser while it was located so advantageously. On 19 April, Crabbe sailed out into the harbor and made his ill-fated dive. He never resurfaced, and 10 days later, the Admiralty reported him as missing, presumed dead. The cover story in place was that the frogman had been testing new underwater equipment miles away from the Soviet vessel. This misdirection was fundamental in the avoidance of a diplomatic incident, in an era where happier relations were absolutely crucial. Others assert that the crew on the Orjonikidze somehow learned of Crabbe's mission, and then took the diver prisoner, returning with him to the Russian capital, where he was likely either killed or set to work on their own clandestine operations. Potentially, the whole episode could have been ingeniously orchestrated by MI6 so Crabbe could be captured and serve as a double agent. Realistically, we are no closer to understanding what could be one of the more bizarre and intriguing disappearances of the 20th century. It is practically impossible to determine which of the logically sound and legitimate speculations is the most likely. It is generally reported that Crabbe was not at his physical peak on his ill-fated mission. A habitual smoker and drinker, it is possible that his body simply gave up out of exhaustion, or, debatably more likely, his equipment suffered a disastrous malfunction. Just over a year later, a corpse clad in the same diving suit as worn by Crabbe on what was potentially his last day on Earth, washed up along the coast near Chichester, in Sussex. Its head and hands were both missing. While it sounds sinister, however, it is not uncommon for bodies in the water for prolonged durations of time. Both Crabbe's last girlfriend and his ex-wife were unable to positively identify the corpse. Although the cadaver shared numerous physical similarities, and the coroner himself was satisfied that the naval frogman had finally been found, many others had their suspicions. There are plenty of theories, all of them having some sort of logical foundation. Official papers declassified in 2007 showed that Crabbe had not partaken in the mission alone that day. If one was to believe the accidental death theory, then we have to believe that his colleague, who is still unknown to this day, either did not notice any irregular activity from Crabbe, or were incapable of assistance. Some have put forward the suggestion that he was actually killed at the hands of a diving companion. A popular speculation is that Crabbe was planning to defect to the Soviets, and, fearing the public humiliation and ridicule that this betrayal would surely bring, the Secret Service decisively intervened. Those stranger happenings have occurred, and continue to even in this modern day. Those who knew Crabbe claim that he was a devout supporter of patriotism. Alternatively, could the Russians themselves be responsible? Years after the disappearance, a Soviet diver professed that he had discovered Crabbe attempting to plant a mine on the Orjonikidze, and had slit his throat. She went to the store to buy ice cream, never to be seen again. What happened to 6-year-old Marianne? Norway, 1981. Marianne Rugesnutsen lived with her family in Risør, a small and quiet town in southern Norway. The summer was over, and everyone had started going back to school and work. Her mom, Torunn, had just given birth to her little sister 4 months earlier. Marianne was cross-eyed, had short, dark hair and thick glasses. Her parents were divorced and her father had moved away. They recently moved into a brand new house with a large garden, which Marianne loved. The last day. It's Friday, August 28, 1981. Marianne went to school like always. The day was short and the children went home around 12 p.m. She went to a friend's house to play, and went home later in the day. When she came home, her mom told her she was going to Arundel to buy curtains, a town 50 kilometers away. Marianne wants to come, and her mom agrees. She gives Marianne some money and tell her to buy some ice cream before they leave. Marianne takes the money and goes the 340 meters to a small local shop called Friedendel. She buys ice cream, and eats it up in the parking lot. She then returns home. When arriving at her house, her cousin Nina is there. Marianne decides she wants to stay home with Nina instead. The disappearance. Torun gives her daughter some money for the second time before she leaves for Arundel, and tell her to use it on ice cream and candy later. Nina, Marianne and her 4-month-old sister play and sing songs. It's now nearly 2:30 p.m., and it's time for ice cream. She sets off towards the store 340 meters away, for the second time this day. She brings empty bottles, a 10 Norwegian krone bill and 2 1 Norwegian krone coins, around 44 Norwegian kroner in today's currency, $5. She has no shoes and a light summer dress. She goes into the store and buys 2 ice creams and a small bag of candy. The cashier tells her to hurry home before the ice melts, and Marianne goes out and runs down the 3 steps. After the door closed behind her, she was never seen again. Friedendel, the shop, / location of the store, photo taken in 1970, / location of the store, today. The aftermath. A total of 8 persons saw 6-year-old Marianne from the time she left her home around 2:30 p.m. until the time she left the store with an ice cream cone in each hand. Still, the police didn't conduct interrogations before 4 to 5 days later. The news of the disappearance didn't reach the public until August 31st, when the biggest newspaper in Norway filled its whole first page with the words "Where is Marianne?" A big search started, which included police, Red Cross, bloodhounds and the local community. They searched land and water. Helicopters flew over the entire town with heat-seeking cameras. The whole town got involved. Eventually, Creepos, the National Unit for Combating Organized and Other Serious Crimes, was called. The town was filled with police, Creepos, reporters and other search party members. There was even a psychic present, top right. The official search lasted until 7th of September. Absolutely no technical evidence was found. A crime scene was also never found.